So I still can't believe that Jesse Smollett thing is still being used by the media to condemn Trump and call him out for the rhetoric, I guess, that he's using against people of color and minorities or something like that, and women, which I guess is don't let illegal aliens across the border. I guess that's the rhetoric they're talking about. But like they love to do, they always mix up immigrant with legal immigrant or illegal immigrant or alien, whatever. But this whole thing once again is just an attempt by the media to make anybody who associates with Trump or supports him feel bad and feel like they're bigots, try to get their supporters, the people who are liberals, etc., to think that all Trump supporters are these evil white bigots roaming the streets of Chicago late at night, waiting to put nooses around black people's necks and throw bleach in their face, right? Like, it's such an unbelievable story. Most people, regardless of race, don't believe this story. A lot of black people don't believe it. White people don't believe it. The media that is pushing this, talking about it, calling this guy strong and whatnot, they don't believe it either. So, it's just a bunch of nonsense being pushed by them, propaganda, and this is probably going to further discredit them. Just like that whole Covington school, Catholic school thing exposed the media for their anti-white racism, if you didn't see it already, but just their willingness to pretty much ignore all information that is easily accessible to just push their narrative. It's very easy to find out that Nathan Phillips and these guys were all liars, and it's pretty easy to see through this guy's story to tell that it's fake. Apparently, he answered the door with still a noose around his neck in one of the stories that I read, which is pretty unbelievable. It's like you call the police an hour after you get attacked, then you leave the noose with you, and then there's other videos of him walking into his apartment with like a Subway bag, just looking fine, didn't alert the guards about the attack or anything. And the police are finding inconsistencies, but they're sticking with their story. They're never going to admit that they lied. The media isn't going to push them on this. They're just going to believe it. And there was recently an article I saw come out by Forbes, and it said the hate crime against Jesse Smollett is emblematic of our time. And they go in, and it's written by Ruth Umah, I don't know how to say her last name, but I write about diversity and inclusion in and out of the workplace. So you can be sure that she's going to lose her job soon, just like all the people who work for Huffington Post and BuzzFeed and what was that other one, Vice or something, that are recently cutting a bunch of their staff. A lot of it happens to be the opinion pieces of the diversity staff, and I even saw something of BuzzFeed a while ago. They're like, oh, they're cutting all the jobs of the people of color. It's primarily people of color that are going. Well, it's because the only reason they hired you a lot of the times was to push this whole diversity inclusion narrative. So going to university to learn about race or something like race theory in university, it's not actually a skill that is very useful. It's only good for Marxists to push their fucking propaganda. But I'll read a little bit of the article because I thought it was funny. And it starts off, the attack against Empire starred Jesse Smollett was horrific, but hate crimes are on the rise across the U.S. Empire star Jesse Smollett was hospitalized in Chicago on Tuesday after suffering a brutal attack that authorities are investigating as a suspected hate crime. The 35-year-old who is black, Jewish, and openly gay, all the three perfect things. The only thing missing is if he was a woman, was approached and disabled, was approached by two people shouting racist and homophobic slurs. And she didn't say allegedly approached, just automatically believes it. But you can be sure if it was a right-wing person saying something happened to them, they'd be like, allegedly attacked by two of these people, allegedly. But this is just like, oh, it happened, by two people shouting racist and homophobic slurs. The duo struck the actor in the face, poured an unknown chemical substance on him, and wrapped the rope around his neck before fleeing the scene. It just seems such like a ridiculous thing to do. Just it's so stereotypical. It's like what rap thing. I bet you they sounded like Hicks and stuff too. I bet you're like, yeehaw, yeehaw, come on, Billy Bob, let's go back to Tennessee, yeehaw. I bet you that's. I'm surprised he didn't add that on to his story, but I guess maybe that would have made it even more unbelievable. But Smollett told police in a follow-up interview that the suspect screamed, "This is MAGA country," referring to the President Donald Trump's contentious slogan. So once again, the media jumped on this because they're like, oh, MAGA country, make America white again. That secretly means a whistleblow to attack people of color in the streets and to stare at Native Americans who come in your face and use a drum. Like this is what MAGA, Make America Great, really means, right? They tried using that, like I said, in the Covington thing. There's no evidence of the kids saying that. The only time there was, he didn't say it to the natives. He said to this white girl who's walking by, and who knows what the fuck she said to these guys before she passed by them. She saw them with their MAGA hats. She most likely insulted them or something. So they respond with like, build the wall, yada, yada, yada. But this girl, you uncovered her Twitter feed and she's saying like the N-word, calling out gay people, all this. She's like a huge racist herself. So it's kind of funny how, if you're going to try to get attention like this on social media and be like, oh, I'm going to call out these Trump supporters, make sure that you don't have a lot of dirt on yourself either, because people are going to look into that shit. But people are stupid. But nonetheless, I'll read a little bit more. Lawmakers and celebrities alike swiftly took to social media to denounce the attack. You mean to virtue signal. With some Twitter users calling the event a new normal in Trump's America. Senator Kamala Harris and Cory Booker both described the violent act as an attempted modern-day lynching. And Cory Booker and I think Kamala Harris they're both pushing for like a bill to make lynching a hate crime because it's not a hate crime. And then they came out, Cory Booker's like, oh, see, now you guys realize we need my hate crime bill against lynching. Now you see the need for it. It's like, did you work with this guy? Because I'm pretty sure Cory Booker is gay. Maybe he was gay and he was having gay sex with this guy. And he's like, hey, guess what, man? You should came up, you were attacked and practically lynched, so it will lend credibility to my anti-lynching bill or something like that, right? But where is this? Both described as a violent act of attempted modern-day lynching, while civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton called the president to condemn the MAGA attackers. Like, why would he attack? Why would he condemn something so stupid, so blatantly false? Like, nobody's looking at this and think it's true. Nobody thinks it's true. It ought to be denounced by even the president, the author of the main proselytizer of America, Make America Great. Sharpton told TMZ on Tuesday his silence would be very, very deafening. Whatever, Al Sharpton, you're an idiot. The president has yet to publicly comment on the attack, but the number of hate crimes has steadily increased in recent years. According to the FBI's most recent data, hate crimes in the U.S. jumped by 17% from 2016 to 2017, the largest increase since 2001. Terrorist attacks powered a surge in bias create crimes against Muslim Americans and people of Arab descent. It's so funny. It's like, 3,000 Americans die and they're going to shame them for increased hate crime against, I don't know, Muslim Arabs or something. They're gonna like reference one or two things that fucking happened and be like, oh, see. But a lot of these hate crimes that they're referencing, oh, look at the increase. Oh, see, look at all the increase that is happening. It's all bullshit. All of it is bullshit. The majority of these things are not hate crimes. And there was this guy that was just this U.S. Israeli teen convicted of threats against Jewish centers in 2018. And he was accused of making more than 2,000 bomb threats to Jewish institutions, airlines, airports, police stations, hospitals, and sporting events. As a result of these threats, planes were forced to land at different airports, schools were evacuated, and emergency forces were alerted, Israeli state prosecutor Yoni Haddad said. He essentially created a panic, terrorized people, and disrupted their lives. You know, he started doing this in 2015 and didn't get caught until 2017. You know, he called several British schools. You know, so I wonder if all of these hate crimes, I wonder if they redacted all of these ones that happened, right? I have a feeling they didn't. You know, I have a feeling a lot of the hate crimes this kid did is still classified under the hate crime statistics for these people. Throughout the American history, there have been spikes in hate crimes when political rhetoric is racist and hateful, says Jeffrey Robinson, an ACLU deputy legal director and director of the Throne Center for Justice and Equality. When you see racist rhetoric emanating from the leader in the White House, don't be surprised when you see these acts, he adds. They are the symptom of something uglier and deeper in American history or society. History paints a more telling picture. More than 110,000 people of Japanese ancestry were forced into internment camps following the attack of Pearl Harbor. You know, they're always going to bring this up. We didn't intern German Americans or Italian Americans on the same scale during World War II, says Robinson, because they're white. Well, it could also be because they weren't like kamikaze soldiers and shit like the Japanese were. Like the Japanese during World War II, would fly their planes and do kamikaze attacks. So, like these people, compared to the Germans and the other people, were more of a threat because they had their fucking honor culture and shit, and they would go around and pretty much be like a modern day Muslim is today, doing his whole jihad thing. So yeah, there probably was a little bit more security when it came to Japanese people because of the history of or how they were fighting in the war at that fucking time. But you know, and maybe it had something to do with their race or whatever. But whoop-de-fucking-do, okay? Whoop-de-fucking-do. The past was the past, but they're always gonna bring up, oh no, this happened in the internment camps and all this, even though they were like fighting to free a bunch of Jews or they were getting killed by a bunch of Nazis in World War II. It's but you're still racist. Remember though, even though you guys are still racist because of your past and things that happened, even though you did some good and that, just remember. So this is a part of your history acting like this. For African Americans, the worst month in anti-black hate crimes came in July 1996 during presidential election season marked by controversy about welfare reform and derogatory stereotyping of black welfare queens, according to Brian Levin, director of the California State University San Bernardino Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism. So yeah, San Bernardino, California, okay, SJW University 101. The second highest period of anti-black hate crimes was during 1995 O.J. Simpson trial. Like Robinson, Levin says that the current socio-political climate is fostering the rise in hate crimes, and he argues that although terrorism is still considered a major danger, the emergence of white nationalism is the most prominent threat to America, a threat, he adds, that has been fueled by the president's remarks. We've seen that if prominent leaders make highly charged statements, it can impact hate crimes, said Levin, who parses hate crimes data and their underlying social drivers. The day after Trump's election, November 10, 2016, marked the worst day for hate crimes since 2003. Also in 2016, Latinos suffered their biggest jump in hate crimes amid cries to build the wall and ongoing anti-Mexico rhetoric. Yet perhaps Yet what's perhaps most worrisome is that this upward trend shows no sign of retreat. The number of hate crimes in the 4 largest U.S. cities by population has gone up, says Levin, and composite data suggests that 2018 will be the 5th consecutive year of these increases for the city's 4th nationwide. Despite these grim projections, there is one relatively bright spot. One of the total number of hate crimes, the percentage that was directed against African Americans has dropped from 1996 high of 42% to 28% in 2017, thanks to what Levin calls the democratization of hate. African Americans are still the most targeted group by far, but their proportion is declining, he says. There's a broadening of everyone attacking everyone. So, it's unbelievable that the media is still using this as something to push their narrative. But I think that the trend of these types of journalists losing their jobs, like we're seeing, like I said, in BuzzFeed and stuff, is probably going to continue because nobody believes this guy's fucking story. Nobody thinks that these people did this. Even the people that probably his family doesn't even believe him. They wrote some statement saying they do, but I'm sure they're like, oh, we just got to support him because he's our son and stuff, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, we don't believe this fucking story. He had like a little scrape on his fucking eye. Like what the fuck? Like, what, did they really beat him? Like he cut himself with his finger or something. Like that's about it. He didn't need to be admitted to the hospital or anything like that. He's just looking for attention, and but it's kind of almost good because it exposes even more the media. If you're so blind to the fact that they're not already the enemy of the people, you need to use this as an example to wake the fuck up, because these people have no integrity whatsoever. Because if they did, they wouldn't be pushing this type of race baity fucking story, right? If they did, they would cover Trump honestly and stuff, and they wouldn't be saying his rhetoric is causing these attacks against gay, black, Jewish people, right? Especially the Jewish thing, which is super funny because he made Israel the capital, or he moved the fucking embassy to Israel, the American embassy. He's doing like a lot of shit for them. So to see that is kind of funny. His daughter is married to a Jewish guy. Like, oh, he's still anti-Semitic. He's still the rise of anti-Semitism. Well, maybe it's all of the Muslims you're bringing in. Maybe it's the Omar or the recent new congresswomen or something. Maybe some of the anti-Semitism is coming from these people. Maybe it's coming from the Nation of Islam, and some of these Islamic groups you're bringing in. But no. The real threat is the rise of white nationalism, which is, no, it's not white nationalism. It's essentially just nationalism in America. It's more of a civic nationalism that is rising up. Most Trump supporters are not white nationalists, and also, if you do want your country to still keep its culture and not be completely shifted with immigration, that still doesn't mean you're a white nationalist. If you don't want to be a minority in your own country, I don't think that should mean you're a white nationalist. That's just something that everybody already wants. But this type of rhetoric will increase. The more diverse the country gets, the more left and the more these people retain power and stay in power, or the more they feel like they're losing their grasp of power, you're going to see this rhetoric, this type of stuff increase. But I think it can only last for so long until people do something about it, until people react negatively, because they're always talking about this rhetoric that Trump is talking, that's incentivizing violence and stuff against people. But the majority of the violence I'm seeing is coming from the left. The majority of the rhetoric that seems to be very divisive and that's going to lead to danger and violence is coming from the left. It's only the people on the left that are saying we're all going to die in 12 years if we don't do anything about climate change. So what do you think that's going to do to some crazy environmentalist who thinks this, and they see some Republican who's like, yeah, I don't believe in climate change? they're going to be like, oh, we need to fucking kill this guy because he's going to kill us all in 12 years. I've heard lots of them talk like this, right? And then, you're convincing, oh, these Republicans are against a woman's right to choose, when in reality, it's these people, they think that you're killing a fucking baby. And nobody wants to admit that. They don't want to say, like, even if it's not true, let's say it's not true, that is what they believe. It's not because they want to take away your rights. And they're like, oh, they just hate women's rights and they want to do this. And, oh, you got to do whatever you can to make sure they're not in power so they don't take away your shit. It's like, no, they just don't want to pay for abortions. They don't want their rights impeded upon, money stolen from them to pay for abortions. And then also they think, especially third trimesters, which I also think too, are completely viable babies, and if you resuscitate them, and you should keep them alive, especially if they're like 7-8 months, you resuscitate it, and now they're alive. You shouldn't kill it again afterwards because the mom decides she doesn't fucking want it. Like, that's fucked up. It's not a part of her anymore. It's out of her fucking body. But it's still a part of her. Apparently, I don't know. Do they leave the appendant or the cord attached or something before they do it so they could say it's still connected or it's still a part of her before they fucking kill it? I don't know, but it's the violent the rhetoric that is going to cause violence is primarily coming from the left, and the right, and the violence that will come from the right is going to be inspired from the left as well, because of the constant gaslighting, telling them, and the constant censoring of people that are on the fringes and stuff. They're going to go and be in their own little secluded groups, and they're not going to get people that are more moderate saying, like, okay, not all these people are bad, not all this is bad. And eventually you're going to get more events like Pittsburgh fucking happening, but then they're going to blame that again on the rhetoric of Donald Trump, and then it's going to go in a fucking cycle again. But in reality, like I said, it's really them. It's really them not addressing a lot of these problems. You're going to see more violence from both sides growing in the future if, this type of race baity shit does not stop. But, like I said earlier, it's amazing to me that they're still running with this blatantly false story. But what do you expect with the fake news media? We don't need any more examples of how bad they are. This is enough. And if you're not woken up at this point, you're brain dead. You're a zombie. You're an NPC, practically. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.